Hey guys, what is going on? This is In the Zone, episode 141 today. Here, as always, with Giancarlo Aulino, Anthony Pagniello. Guys, yesterday was Free Agent Frenzy. It's a big, big deal in the NHL. A lot of acquisitions and a lot of moves yesterday. I'm going to start it off with the big fish right there in the middle. Dougie Hamilton surprising basically everybody, going to a non-playoff team in New Jersey. I think he got 7 years at $9 million. I'll start with you, Aulino. What were your original thoughts on this deal? 7 year here, I got the number here. 7 year, $63 million contract. Do you think that New Jersey was the right team for Dougie, or do you think maybe he was more suited for a Seattle team?
Yeah, when I first heard the deal, it said, "Oh, Dougie Hamilton signs." Then the number they gave, the term, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, makes sense. Sounds great. Let's see what contender he signed on for. And then they said New Jersey. I'm like, what the fuck is that? What is he doing? Dougie Hamilton in New Jersey. That doesn't make any sense. But you know what? They made some other moves there during the day that are hoping that Jack Hughes can come up there and be a superstar, have a great year. Heishier, they're hoping can have a bounce back and play well, continue to be that star for them. And back end there, Subban, they're hoping he can bounce back. So I think a lot of this is on potential. You bring Dougie Hamilton in there, maybe him and Subban together can be a nice tandem. Bernier looks like he's the guy over there. So I think New Jersey's going to have an improved roster. Where this goes, I have no clue, but I think they're trying to become, I guess, another Carolina right there in the East. So it's going to be interesting.
I was very surprised. I didn't think the Devils would be in on Dougie, but yeah, after the deal was made, I kind of thought about it, and I like it. You know, the guy's 28 years old. This was probably the best opportunity for him to cash out 9 mil a year. That's a little more than I thought, but he's been one of the better offensive D the last few years. So going to New Jersey, him and PK, they got Ty Smith coming up on D. With Heishier and Hughes there, they got something building there in New Jersey. So I love it for the Devils and for Dougie.
I mean, you got to look at it too in the perspective of Dougie. He looks at this team. He probably thinks they're going to be contenders in like 2-3 years with Heishier and Hughes down the middle, and you have Ty Smith now with Dougie Hamilton. They just got rid of Will Butcher, which is pretty fine. The fact that they still have Zaversin, I think it's still a bonus here. They protected him, which was smart. I love what this Devils team is doing. I mean, I know the goaltending is not good at all with Blackwood and Bernier. I mean, it's a start, but that definitely has to improve if they want to be looked at as contenders. But down the middle, they have Hughes, they have Heishier, two absolutely. I mean, they should be incredible guys, both first overall picks. So we got to wait and see there, but. Pavel Zacha took a huge step forward this year. It looks like he can maybe get you 20, 25 goals. So, yeah, I guess now with New Jersey, we got to play the wait and see game. But I actually want to quickly move on. There were a couple of trades last week, actually. I want to kind of talk about what went down before the free agent frenzy. There were a couple really, really big add-ons, and I want to talk about this team that's in the same division, and that's Philly. You get Ristolainen, you get Ryan Ellis, you get Keith Yandel now. What do you guys, after all the transactions that we have seen from the Philadelphia Flyers, what do you guys believe in for Philly next year?
Oh, I think they're right there. They're one of the better teams in the league. They were showing it this year, and then they kind of fell off a fucking cliff. I don't really know what happened, but I love the players they already have. I love all the moves they made. So they really messed with their decor this year. I don't really know where to start. I love the Ryan Ellis deal. I guess I'll go there. Like, they got lucky with Nolan Patrick moving up in the draft. He's been rocked with injuries. I guess it didn't really work out. And then they threw in Philip Myers, and to get back a guy like Ryan Ellis over there to fit in that decor to take some of the pressure off Provorov, I think that's probably the best move they made. But yeah, we'll keep going with Philly here. What do you like?
Yeah, I think that was a solid few trades. They're really smart, and Philly's decor's unbelievable now. You got Ellis, Provorov, Sanheim, Ristolainen. You got rid of Gossesbeer's contract. Nolan Patrick, who wasn't working out, so they at least get something in return there. So if I'm a Philly fan going into next year with that decor, you're at least a lot more happy and optimistic. And then you got Martin Jones coming in, who he's not really, I guess, what a lot of people have hoped. He's slid down in San Jose the last couple of years, and maybe this is a fresh start. So hoping that his cap hit will be something that motivates him and brings him back to form and restarts his career.
Yeah, I really like the trade for Ryan Ellis. I think out of all the trades, that's the one that they are going to look back on if they do end up going to the Stanley Cup Finals and saying, okay, that was the guy that got us over the hump. I really do like what they did with their young core, like you guys mentioned. Getting rid of Ghost's contract was no slouch for sure. Philip Myers, I always liked him a lot, but we all knew that guys like Provorov and Sanheim will forever be ahead of him in the depth chart. So, him getting that opportunity now going to, I think, where'd he go? Nashville. So, him going there, he's kind of in a similar situation that he's already been in, but I feel like with guys like Ekholm, Roman Josi, I think, is now on the other side of 30. I mean, eventually it's probably going to be Philip Myers' blue line to lose between him and Fabro. So I really like what they did there, but I want to also talk about the Voracek trade. I think that was absolutely out of left field. I did not expect Philly to trade Voracek or Giroux for the foreseeable future, maybe even let their contract run through. But I guess I'll start with you, Aulino. What did you initially think of the Voracek for Atkinson deal?
Yeah, that one was a little out there too, like you mentioned, and like Voracek goes back to Columbus, so he's been there before. He adds some veteran leadership to their lineup with Line coming back and everything they're going to be able to do. But like Atkinson could fit in well in Philly. I just don't know where they're going to put him, like which line is going to be the best fit for him. So that one was probably more of a like short-term thing. I don't think they have long-term plans for Atkinson. Maybe he can become a goal scorer again. I doubt it. On Phillies especially, I think they'll probably look to trade him after at the deadline to maybe package off and see if they can improve on their forwards and make a run at the cup.
Yo, low key, actually love the deal. I didn't think anyone would take on Voracek's contract. The guy's making like over $8 million. But he's a solid player. I like the deal though. The 1-for-1. I think Atkinson. I think he'll find a way to fit into that lineup. He's one of those guys. Whether you plug him in on the first or the third line, he's gonna do his job. He plays a grinding style. He's like very skilled, solid shot. You can play him with like a Kevin Hayes or a JVR. Like I think he fits solid in that lineup. So yeah, that's another solid move for Philly. But what do we think about the Rasmus Ristolainen deal?
Yeah, that one to me is that's just a trade that I look at, and it's good for Buffalo. And we know that Risto has been, come on, man. I think the last 3 years he's been one of the big trade baits on the trade at the trade deadline. It was never going to fit long term, I think, with Risto in Buffalo. And I mean, who really wants to stay there right now? I wouldn't even be surprised if a guy like Dahlin leaves eventually. It's that sour in Buffalo. But in terms of Philly, I don't understand it actually. I mean, they had Ghost and he was a great offensive player, but getting a guy like Ristolainen, what is his contract? Is it over 5 or is it just under 5? I think it's under 5. But man, like him and Yandel are very similar. They're very good offensive defensemen, but when you look at the defensive aspect, not as much. I was saying to Pagniello yesterday, he's a turnover machine, Ristolainen, so he's going to have to improve his defensive game. If their goals against average wants to go down, Carter Hart has to have a bounce back year, and guys like Risto and Keith Yandel might have to adjust their roles on this team if they want to be successful. But other than that, I think it's an experiment here. I don't know if Philly's going to keep him long term, but at this point in time, if I'm Buffalo, just take whatever you can at this point.
I don't mind it, honestly. I feel like I don't know what long term is, but the next 3-4 years or so, because they gave up Hag and 2 first-round picks. So I don't think that's kind of like a 1-2 year experiment. I would like to give him the benefit of the doubt because he was playing in Buffalo. He's a fucking huge minus every year. He's one of those players, though. He's really frustrating because he's like 6'4", 6'5", big body, skates well, can move the puck, but like there are a lot of liabilities there. So I think in Philly's system, playing behind guys like Ellis and Provorov, or even with one of them, maybe he could benefit from it. But yeah, to get out of Buffalo there, that's the biggest win of all.
Yeah, it seemed like he was on the trade block forever. Like even when they were doing somewhat well, it's like, yeah, we're trying to trade Ristolainen out of here. So it's good that at least he gets over that mental hurdle there, and he can actually play without having to worry about getting traded every week. So he's out of Buffalo. Jack Eichel's still stuck. Maybe he'll get some luck soon, but it's not looking good now for Buffalo's and what they even want to do going forward.
Should we stick with the Sabres because we do that? We tend to do that. So they also dumped Sam Reinhart to the Florida Panthers, who are now back in our division next year. So that's fun. Chris, they really didn't give up much. I think it was a first and a prospect. I gotta check up the name right now. But Sam Reinhart getting out of Buffalo, he's a solid top six forward. What does he do for the Panthers?
Yeah, it was for the goalie. I don't know if you guys remember Levi from the World Juniors. So he ended up going to Buffalo and a first rounder next year for Reinhardt. I love this for Florida, man. Honestly, I think they might be better than the Leafs next year, just based on this move alone. He's a top six forward. He's been a top six forward since basically coming in the league. His IQ is elite. The points, they're not elite. He won't put up 85 points, but what he does with his IQ, with his all-around game, he's only going to benefit too playing with guys like Barkov and Verhaeghe and Huberdeau and all those guys. So I absolutely love this for Florida. They don't need that first rounder next year. They have a pretty good young core. I mean, Reinhardt is 24. Bennett, now they also re-signed. I love that signing too. So far for me, other than them getting rid of Keith Yandel, I think they've done this offseason beautifully, Florida. So for now, I actually have them better than the Leafs as of right now going into next year.
Yeah, I agree, and I'll go one step further than that. I think if Ekblad was healthy, they're better than Tampa. So I'm going to go Florida being the team in Florida, that region there, that town of hockey, I guess, crazed fans, which it's going to have a nice little battle there with – you got Ekblad. Now you have Barkov there. You can play with Reinhardt. So at least he has another guy. You can move Huberdeau down. They can do something else, be more creative. But Florida, I think, is shaping up to be a contender this year. And you got Quenneville on the bench, so that obviously helps. So don't sleep on Florida.
Is this the year, though? Because we tend to sleep on Florida like our whole lives.
Yeah,
I mean, this would be it. Yeah, this would be it. Bobrovsky, now it's your crease again, buddy. Drager's gone. You got to bounce back. You're getting paid $10 million. How long has he been in Florida now? Has it been 3 years? I think it's 2. It's been 2 years now in Florida. He got that $10 million contract, and obviously the numbers haven't been there. But I think if Bobrovsky can, bounce back in some way, you're adding Bennett, right? I mean, you're keeping Bennett and you're even adding Reinhardt, and they also managed to keep Verhaeghe. I mean, I love this team, man. Honestly, I don't think it's so far-fetched to say that Florida's better than Toronto.
Can we say right now those are the top 2 penciled-in teams for our division next year?
Easily, yeah. Tampa and Florida for sure. Yeah. I guess I'll continue the trend with the trades, and then we'll go a little more at the free agency because there are some trades, and we do miss a lot of stuff, so I'm trying not to miss it. So Vancouver, they traded for Ekman Larson and Connor Garland, which was an absolute blockbuster trade. Thank God I brought that up because we were not going to talk about that. So Arizona ended up getting the 9th pick, which I believe – who was the 9th pick? I think it was Dylan Guenther from Edmonton in the WHL. So he's fairly good. But guys, what do you think of this trade for the Vancouver Canucks? They got Connor Garland. They also re-signed him, and they also get OEL. I guess I'll start this one with Pagniello. I know you're a big OEL fan. what does this mean for Vancouver?
Well, for Vancouver, you get Ekman Larson, who top 4 defenseman. Obviously, we all know who he is now. He's been, I don't want to say buried in Arizona. I think he's put them on the map. We'll be a little positive there. But he's been a prominent offensive D the last little while. He is like 30 years old now. So when the deal happened, you look at the contract and you're like, what the fuck are they doing? But it takes a lot of pressure off Quinn Hughes, who doesn't really have to carry the load on a still very young team. And they also got Connor Garland, who I honestly can't fucking believe they traded. I really thought they liked him over there. I thought he was progressing, but you get him in Vancouver. You sign him to I think it was a 5-year deal. He's going to fit beautifully in their top 9 over there. So giving up the 9th pick was a little surprising. And all the guys they fucking signed all those years ago that were going to be up anyways next year. But you got Connor Garland, you got OEL. Those are solid players. Just keep moving forward. Very surprising trade, though.
Oh yeah, I think Vancouver should be happy about this. Like, I know Arizona's hands are kind of tied because OEL said the only team he would go to is Vancouver, and good on Vancouver. This is their reputation. Treated their Swedish stars, the Sedins, really good over the years, even Naslund, and now all these young Swedish players. They look at that and be like, you know what? If I'm going to a team, I want to play in Vancouver, and we see that with OEL. They have him now, Hughes. Both in their prime, and Hughes is just still coming into his prime. Tyler Myers, that's a deep roster they got there to go on their forwards. And would they really give up? Like the draft pick that they didn't really need because they want to win now. You get rid of Vertanen, who you didn't really need anymore, and you just sacrifice Edler, who you kind of upgraded now because you got Ekman Larson. So Vancouver made some great moves. They still have to deal with the Luongo compliance thing because of Florida, but they've managed this whole thing well.
Yeah, I think it was an absolute W for Vancouver. I think that might be one of the better trades. If they were to go deep in the playoffs next year, I think that this is one of the better trades to look back on. I mean, like Pagniello said, Connor Garland, I think this guy might have been their best player this year, all in all. When you look at maybe other than Chychrun, I want to say Garland was probably their best player. So trading him for basically a rebuilding package with the 9th pick and then those 3 contracts, those roster guys that really don't do much, Louis Eriksson, Beagle, and Roussel. I mean, I love Beagle. I've always liked him. He's a great penalty killer. But other than that, you're basically trading Garland and Ekman Larson, 2 guys that have been in your core for the last 3-4. Well, I mean, Ekman Larson's been there since 2009. So it was his time for sure to move on. But my biggest question is now, and this might be a hot take, but with them gaining Connor Garland and Ekman Larson and still having Pedersen, Besser, Horvat, like, is it too much? Is it a hot take to even say at this point that Vancouver might be better than Edmonton going into next year? Because like, I'm thinking about their top 6 and I'm looking at their D now, and it's looking pretty good there, even with Demko too. So what are you guys' thoughts on Vancouver? Do you see them maybe being a playoff team next year?
I mean, yeah, they could for sure. It's one of those things where everyone's got to be on their game because they are still a very young team and everyone's really unproven for the most part. But yeah, you just mentioned guys like Besser and Pedersen and Garland and Horvat, they can definitely lead. So like now's the time for them to take over. Like I think they compete with those teams, Edmonton and Calgary. Like they might miss, they might make it, but I don't think the plan changes. Like I remember going into this year, everyone was kind of like Vancouver. This is also the year where they can do some damage, and then they had so many problems with COVID and injuries and all that. So yeah, I think Vancouver solid for the future. You got solid players. They could definitely make the playoffs if things go right.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the COVID thing this year, they were just unfortunate. I think Montreal kind of took their spot. Vancouver, I think, was slotted in a lot of people's minds in that spot. And if they didn't have to deal with all that, I think they probably would have been maybe even third. They would have took Winnipeg's spot. So I think this is just Vancouver regrouping and looking that they still have talented players, and they added another guy to come in. And hopefully in that division where they are, it's going to be a lot tougher this year, but I think they should still be able to make it out of it. And I wouldn't rule out even one round that they get past this year.
another big trade that actually happened, a huge trade. I'm going to keep this going. Seth Jones gets traded at first, and then he signs $9.5 million for 8 years with the Blackhawks. I'll quickly run down this trade. So it was Seth Jones, the 31st pick, and a 2022 sixth rounder for Adam Boykvist, a really highly touted blue chip defensive prospect, the 11th overall pick, and a 2022 first rounder and a 2021 second rounder. And this was even before they actually signed him. So I guess I'll start with the contract. 8 years, $9.5 million. Pagniello, is it worth it if you're Chicago, or is this another overpaid defenseman in Chicago?
Oof. It's a coin flip right now. As of right now, I'd say no, but I think he's going to be worth that. I think Seth Jones is that player. I'm just surprised that Chicago was the team to get him. So I think when it initially happened, the three of us were kind of baffled. We're like, what the hell are they doing? Like, because we don't know if they're rebuilding or they're trying to go for it. But you sign a guy like Seth Jones and you trade a Boykvist, who they drafted 9th overall a few years ago, and 2 first-round picks, the 11th overall pick. So, like, that's a guy they look at, and he's going to anchor their blue line for the next 10 years. And I think he will be worth that contract when it's all said and done. But for the Blackhawks to do that deal, that just completely fucking threw me off.
Yeah, that's really risky what they did. If you're Columbus, you won regardless. You traded Ryan Johansson to get Seth Jones, so you got Seth Jones in your group there and building with all those guys, and now you flip them for that kind of deal. I think Columbus did really well here. They did Seth Jones a solid. They pretty much sent him to a place that he wanted to play in, and everybody's happy at the end of it. But if you're Chicago, this is like, they should have looked at this as a rebuilding stage, take advantage of it. They went to the playoffs, haven't really been as successful. I think that would have been a nice way to really rebuild. Jonathan Taves coming back, so him and Kane are going to be together. But other than that, like, I think they're going to chance it. They're going to risk it all for this year. And I think if they don't make it this year to the playoffs and have success, that's when they're going to finally rebuild. And that's why they have Seth Jones here long term to make that happen.
Yeah, I agree there too. I mean, you look at Chicago and it's like, what the hell's going on? They're kind of like how I valued Nashville like 2-3 years ago. It's like, okay, when is the rebuild coming? And then all of a sudden, bam, they're in the conference final, or they're making that one little move, and all of a sudden, bam, they're back in the playoffs. So it's the same thing for me with Chicago here. This year, when they didn't make the playoffs, I just knew that, this is normal. This is something that's going to continue to happen. We didn't know if Taves would play again. Patrick Kane's getting older. Dylan Strome hasn't been the offensive player that, they've wanted him to be. And I mean, it's a huge win that they ended up trading Brent Seabrook's contract for Tyler Johnson. I think that's an absolute win too for Chicago. So they've added a couple big time guys. They got now Seth Jones. They got Marc-Andre Fleury. I don't know if he's going to play. And they have Tyler Johnson. So, I mean, kind of like with Vancouver, Chicago's another team next year. I really don't know where to slot them in the standings. They could go as high as probably 6th and then as low as like 13th. So I really have no idea with Chicago. I'm very excited, though, with this dynamic. It's going to be interesting to see Seth Jones back in that Hawks jersey back when he was in Portland. So it's going to bring back flashbacks of him being a 17, 18-year-old. And I remember watching that draft year vividly. So it's going to be interesting to see. This is a passing of the torch. Duncan Keith also moving on, going to Edmonton. So it's going to be fun to see Chicago. But now with all the trades basically done, I'm going to start now talking more about free agency, what went down. So we're going to quickly just start this one off with whoever re-signed. So the big re-signings, obviously, Cale Makar. I'm going to start with this. The 2 guys in Colorado, Makar and Landeskog, were able to get contract renewals in Colorado, but unfortunately, Philip Grubauer was the odd one out there. I guess I'll start this one with Aulino. Out of the 3 guys in Colorado, were you surprised that they couldn't afford all 3, or was this something that you expected?
No, I was surprised that one of them left, and I was surprised that it was Grubauer going to fucking Seattle. Like, this guy was in a position here with this kind of team. Like I know Landeskog and Makar, I think what they did was hold off a little bit till after the expansion draft, similar to what Ovi did. So like that, the Avalanche can retain more players, and then they make their whole extension official. But Grubauer, that's just a weird one where they already have Drieger there, so now he's joining a position on a team where he's going to be battling all year. His save percentage might not be good. And Makar, he's going to get a nice raise, so good for him. He deserved it. And Landeskog, he's going to continue being that guy. So I think Colorado, especially making the Kemper trade and bringing him in, I think they're in a position again to go for the Stanley Cup. And I actually like this team now even better, bringing Kemper in than when Grubauer was the goalie. I think Kemper is an upgrade.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm just, I feel like we should be surprised, though, just because of how much money Landeskog and Makar got. But we still kind of assumed they'd sign Grubauer just because the setup over there was perfect. But yeah, him going to Seattle, that's another move. Like the 28th, that day just fucking threw me off. A lot of random signings. I cannot believe they jacked him from Colorado. Apparently, they were talking on the phone like just 10, 15 minutes prior, and it was like last second they were saying on TSN. So, yeah, Seattle's got 3 young goalies. But in Colorado, that Kemper move, nice little consolation, but man, that was wild.
Yeah, I mean, I was really surprised with Landeskog with the years. I didn't think he would get 8 years. I think he's, 29, 30 now. So he's going to probably retire as a Colorado Avalanche. And that also means that McKinnon will probably never be the captain. So there's another sour thing for any McKinnon fans out there. But, I guess we didn't really talk more about – I mean, Makar, obviously, he's going to get the bigger contract because, he's probably the most valuable guy other than McKinnon on the team. $9 million for 6 years. Is that too much for Makar, or is that about right at this point in his career?
You want to take that one?
Yeah, I think this is just about right. With the Seattle Kraken now coming in, there's 32 teams, ESPN, the TNT deal. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if next year the cap doesn't go up a lot, and then the year after even more, to where this contract, if McCarr took a 2-year bridge deal, he probably would have been in a position where he's making 11.5 to 12. So I'll take 9.5. I think that's a good number, and it's going to be a really good number once the cap goes up to a greater amount. So I think Colorado's in a really good position, and then once McKinnon's a free agent, they'll have more money to play with. So they didn't really do too bad of a job. I know Grubauer kind of screwed them over. He literally left it to the last minute when all the goalies were off the board, and then he decided to dip. So they had to go and trade for Kemper, panic move. But I think even Kemper will probably take less. I don't think he's going to take an $8 million deal next year. So Colorado is in a good position.
Yeah, I also like that Makar got less than Jones. I mean, if Jones didn't get 9.5, I still think this is a little bit maybe overpaid, just a tad. But yeah, this guy's probably going to win a couple Norrises under this contract. So I wouldn't be surprised if he even has another bonus in his contract here. So yeah, $9 million is pretty good. Landeskog ended up getting the longer term, which is hilarious. He got 8 years. Makar got 6. But other than that, yeah, locking up those two guys for the next 6 years minimum, that's a huge W for the Colorado Avalanche.
Is that it now for the Avs? They're just waiting on McKinnon's deal to come up?
Oh, yeah, most likely, because they even got rid of Saw. They got rid of Donskoy. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's getting to that point where they don't really care about the bottom. They're just looking at McKinnon's contract and they're circling it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the Makar one. I'm old school with all these guys. I'm like, you got to prove it a little more. But the second he stepped into the league, he was already like top 5 offensive defenseman. So the second he's on the ice, he immediately impacts the game. He's just one of those guys. So he's one of the very few exceptions. I don't really mind that they're giving him $9 million per. So the Avs are set. Just waiting on Nate the Great now.
Exactly. And another guy re-signed. The guy's a freaking legend. Washington. Alex Ovechkin signed a 5-year deal, $9.5 million per year. Aulino, I know it's crazy to say this, but is the great 8 getting overpaid?
Oh no, I think he's getting market value here. Maybe a little less than market value. I thought he was going to take 10.5, 11. But I gave him a little bit of a discount because he won a cup already. He's not ring chasing anymore. But I think Washington's in a good position there. Depending on what they do with Kuznetsov, if they trade him, they can just add on even more to their already stacked team. So I think Washington having Mantha there too with Ovi, that's a nice complementary piece. And I think they're going to have a better year this year. And I think the playoff run for Ovi, he's going to get some more goals, get closer to Gretzky. Maybe in the next 5 years he could pass him. So he's the greatest goal scorer because Gretzky wasn't a scorer. He just fucking put it in the net. But Ovi, greatest goal scorer, he deserves the money. So good for him.
He literally could have asked for anything, and I would have given it to him. That's all I have to say about Ovechkin.
Yeah, another guy that actually re-signed after they traded for him in St. Louis, Pavel Buchnevich, guys. 4 years, $5.8 million. A lot of fans actually under this poster saying it's time for Tarasenko to move on. I guess I'll start with Buchnevich. What we saw from him this year in New York, he had a breakout year. He looked incredible on the top line at times with Zibanejad and Panarin. What do you guys see his outlook looking like in St. Louis?
Oh, he's a solid young player. With them losing Schwartz too to fucking Seattle, I think he'll fit in perfectly there. Another maybe like a 45 to 60 point guy. I think he'll fit real nice in that system. They're a good team. They have been for a while, so that's a nice ad picking him up.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think he fits in well. Tarasenko, they have to move now, and their best opportunity was the expansion draft, and Seattle didn't take him. So the draft, I thought, was a perfect opportunity to really put him out there, maybe get a first round pick. Now you're probably going to get a less than, I guess, comparable return compared to what other guys were getting. I think now you're going to have to settle. You're not going to get the kind of return Seth Jones got from Columbus, and I don't know. I don't know where Seattle or St. Louis is going to go because I think Seattle would have been the best opportunity, and now with their cap space, I don't think they're going to waste it trading up like draft picks when they could have gotten them for free. So they're a little tied over there.
Yeah, I want to just quickly talk about a couple other guys. Joel Armia, he had a great playoff for Montreal. He also re-signed 4 years, $3.4 million. With all these guys getting paid more than $3 million in Montreal, and we didn't really see a lot from Jonathan Drouin in the playoffs. Do you guys see them maybe potentially buying out Drouin or trading him at some point? Because haven't really seen a lot of them in a Montreal jersey.
Yeah, unfortunately. He got that big deal when he came over, and he was one of those guys. We'll just wait and see for the longest time. I think we're kind of he's an established player in this league, but I wouldn't expect too much. He's a skilled second, third line player. He's very inconsistent. He's not worth that contract. I don't know if they'll buy him out, but yeah, maybe it's time for a new scenery.
Yeah, nothing to add there. I think they screwed up by trading Sergachev, and now they're going to pay for it. So I do not feel any sympathy to them.
Well, I'm going to go back to Florida. They re-signed another big-time defenseman there that I think they got at the trade deadline or last year in Brandon Montour, 3-year, $3.5 million. I know, Pagniello, you're a big fan of him. I like him too. What do you think this signing does to a guy like an Ekblad and a Weegar? Because Weegar, he's gotten a lot of attention the last year. Aaron Ekblad, wow, if he didn't get hurt, probably in the Norris conversation. So what does a guy like Brandon Montour bring to Florida for the next 3 years?
He's going to take like 18 to 20 minutes of ice time. He's going to take a big chunk out of that. He'll be solid on the defensive end, 20 to 30 points maybe. He's not really going to do much there. It's a bonus when he does score, but yeah, he's going to take a lot of pressure off Ekblad and Weaver, who came out of fucking nowhere this year. So it's another depth defense signing. He should play top 4 over there, but yeah, it's Florida's making some solid moves all around their lineup, and this is another good one.
Yeah, I like it. It keeps them stable. And with Reinhardt coming in and joining the offense, it keeps your defense at least has that chemistry. So I think they're still going to make another move closer to the start of the season. But Florida's still my pick there, the team to beat in that whole battle of Florida with them in Tampa.
All right. I'm going to quickly talk about this contract that they re-signed, and hear me out here. I love this guy. This guy went 4th overall, Sam Bennett. 4 years at $4.4 million. $4.4 million. Is it safe to say that this contract might be the biggest high risk, high reward that I could at least remember in a long time? Because Sam Bennett goes to Florida, looks like a completely different player. I guess I'll start with you, Pagniello. I know you're a big Sam Bennett guy. I know he had a great year in Florida, but is this accurate?
Well, what's it? 4.5?
4.5 mil per year.
I mean, I love his game. He's a solid player, lower in your lineup, but I didn't think he would fetch 4.5. I thought maybe like in the fucking 2 to 3 range, and I might be pushing it with 3. But like, I love what he brings. He's gonna fit perfect on that third line. He could play second power play. Every time they touch the playoffs, he's like magically a point per game player. So brings a lot of toughness and grit to their lineup. So the contract's very surprising, but the player's solid.
Yeah, with Pagniello on that, it's a little risky, but if it pays off, Florida's going to look like geniuses. So I think they're banking on him to improve on what he did when he came into the team. I know in Calgary, he was like he was being in and out. Like some games he was good, some he was bad, so he wasn't too consistent. But since he's gone to Florida, he's looked like a really good player, and I think they're looking at him to continue that. So maybe the pay raise helps him mentally, like be motivated even more, and I think he's going to show out there.
I really hope so, because 4.4 mil, that's a lot. I mean, it kind of came out of nowhere too. I don't know if he deserves 4.4, but I guess his agent really talked him into doing it. I mean, he is only 24 years old. We never know. He could break out. But that is very, very, that's highly unlikely. But I do think it's a high risk, high reward contract. But now we're going to move to Edmonton. They made a couple interesting moves, I'll say the least. First, they traded Ethan Bear for Warren Fogle. So that's another that's gonna, if people ask why, I'll tell you why. Because they re-signed Tyson Barrie, 3 years at $4.5 million. I think that could be one of the biggest steals in terms of AAV. Like, this guy was like 5th in scoring, but for defensemen this year, he's gonna be on the power play. I know for sure in 3 years, if he's putting up over 60 points, he's going to probably get around 7. So I think his agent himself in Edmonton knew that, this bridge deal, it's a really, really cheap option. I think they're going for it now. But Tyson Barrie getting 4.4 for 3 years. Cody Ceci getting 4 years at 3.5 or 3.25. And then, of course, you have the big Zach Hyman, 7 years at $5.5 million. So I'll start with you, Aulino. Out of all 3 of these signings, what does this do for Edmonton long term? Does this benefit? Does this put them in a pickle? What does this mean for the Edmonton Oilers?
Oh, it means that their top 6 just got a lot better with Zach Hyman in the mix. He's going to play with either McDavid or Draisaitl, and then when your bottom 6 is slacking, he's going to go down there. Nuge can go up or down, and I think they got a nice mixture here. I really like what Zach Hyman. He only really took $500K more because of the 7-year deal, so you don't have to overpay. You're already willing to give him $5 million if you're Edmonton, so I really like it. Zachy is a good pro. He's gonna come in there, do good things. He's gonna win a cup with McDavid and Draisaitl, and he's gonna bring him over the hump. I think this is the move that does it. They already have 2 MVP caliber players. Their biggest knock was always on the wing, and now they got somebody like Hyman to do that dirty work. So Edmonton is in a nice little situation. With CC, that might be a dumb move, but you know what? You got Zach Hyman, so it's all good.
Low-key love the Barry signing too. I think for one of the better offensive defensemen in the league the last like 8 years to only get him at like 4.5 for only a short-term deal for he's still in his prime. Like I think that's a solid move. You got Darnell Nurse carrying the load there, and Barry really for what he produces offensively, it's really not that much. So if he could continue to, I don't know if he'll get 48 and 56 again, but if he could continue to be Tyson Barrie, that's solid value for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that Tyson Barrie was going to ask for about like 7.5 because that's what he was saying last year, and I'm really happy that he kind of opened his eyes and said, okay, like we got to kind of be realistic here. Edmonton, they already have Draisaitl at 9.5, McDavid at 12. Nuge, I think they just re-signed for 7 more years at like 8 or 7.5. So yeah, that it was a smart move for them to really talk down Tyson Barrie, say, listen, we'll give you that bridge deal. We'll give you a little bit less, but I think you have the talent. So after the 3 years, you can definitely cash out for sure. So I think Tyson Barrie, this is also a contract where he looks at himself and he's banking on himself to consistently stay great for another 3 years, and that's awesome to see. And you could easily tell that his confidence is at an all-time high now, especially like you said, 48 and 56. That's on pace for about 70 points. So that's an incredible stat, but I'm going to continue to move on here. We do have a lot. Alex Martinez had a hell of a year. I had him in fantasy. He re-signed with the Vegas Golden Knights, 3 years at $5.25 million. Aulino, is this a bit of an overpay or is this just about right for Martinez?
Yeah, I'm leaning more towards a bit of an overpay. I think they could have done more with that money. Like maybe you try to get him for less money and more term, but I don't know. I think they backed themselves in a corner. They're going to be in cap hell again, and he's going to probably be the contract once this run is over. Oh man, my microphone fell. But yeah, when this run's over, they're going to look at Martinez's contract for sure as going to be the one to leave salary and trade salary, like a salary dump type of thing. So he's probably going to look at being out the door in a couple years. So for Vegas, maybe it helps them short term, but long term, it's going to be a bad move.
I think you look at that 3rd year, and that's kind of the deciding factor because he's still a good player, but like at 35 years old now, it is a little risky. But I think, yeah, I'm pretty much spot on what you said. In the short term, solid player in the top 4, but a couple of years down the road, we'll see.
I want to continue. Blake Coleman, 6 years, $4.9 million in Calgary. I don't really know what this means. I said to Pagniello, this is a big overpay. I mean, he has deserved this contract, though. He's played absolutely incredible the last, I want to say 3-4 years. I remember he started in New Jersey as that elite penalty killer. And then year after year, his offensive numbers have continued to go up. So I guess with this being said, does this mean that Calgary sees him as easily as a top 6 forward on this team?
Easily? Okay, they got Gaudreau, Kachuk. Yeah, Coleman or Mangiapane. I think he fits 2nd or 3rd line. It depends what they want to do. I still think he'll produce pretty much the same thing. He'll get around 20 goals. He's a good penalty killer. He's fast as fuck. I think he'll fit right in the Flame system there. So 4.9, that's kind of in the ballpark. The 6 years was a little surprising. A lot of guys got such long-term deals, and this was a surprising one. But yeah, Coleman's a solid player. For the Flames, I love it.
Yeah, I like it for the Flames. They have Kachuk now and Coleman to make life difficult for everyone else. It also, I don't know, I think Calgary still might be looking to trade Gaudreau, so depending on what they get for him, maybe you're looking at this contract as something that sets the tone or sets a number for guys coming in. So maybe if they add another player, they're looking at maybe a $5 million or a $4 million. They won't bring in like a $10 million guy. So I think we'll see some lines maybe look a little different. Maybe they're going to try some new things and get creative, but I think he's going to really add to their penalty kill for sure.
Yeah, like another guy too that I want to bring up here, and I'm not trying to knack on the years here, but a guy like Blake Coleman getting 6 years, a guy like Brandon Tanev getting 6 years, it just seems a little off if I'm a franchise. I'm not really offering these type of guys like 6 years. I'm offering these type of guys maybe 3. But absolutely, Coleman deserves it. He's just been getting better every single year. So if he is in the top 6, we're probably looking at a breakout year fantasy-wise for him. So make sure you guys keep that in your head. Of course, up next we have Ryan Suter, Dallas Stars, 4 years. I don't know if that was necessary. 4-year deal, that's a lot. He's 36 years old. He's been one of the best workhorses in our generation. So I guess I'll start with you, Pagniello. I know you're a big Ryan Suter fan. He's finally going to be on a new team, not named Minnesota. It's Dallas. What do you think about this one?
Again, term was surprising. He's up there in age, but for some reason that guy just doesn't seem to age. He plays half the game. Solid defensive player. He may go down as one of the more underrated defenders in history, mainly because of his fucking Minnesota run. But the man's 36 now. He's playing on a kind of a younger squad in Dallas, a rebuilding squad. So yeah, that's another one that threw me off there. But Suter, solid veteran player, so he's still rolling. I love it. It might be some problems down the line, but for now, it's great.
Yeah, Dallas's GM needs to really shake his head here. Like, he does know Suter got bought out, right? Like, you're giving a guy who just got bought out 4 years. Like, you should have given him at least 2. Like, 1, I think, would have been Suter probably would have been amazing, but give 2 and see how it goes. Putting 4 years on that is like basically telling the guy, yeah, we're buying you out after year 3. So get comfortable in the short term, but this is something where that final year, I doubt he's going to be playing there. So I'm not too optimistic on that one.
I'm going to actually try and I'm not going to say all of them because there are way too many here, but I'm going to start, going and talking about the more important players. So Freddie Anderson, he was a Leaf for about 4 or 5 seasons. He now walks to Carolina, the team that drafted him. 2 years at $4.5 million. I absolutely love this for Carolina. I think this is a huge bargain. I don't see him staying in Carolina after the 2 years, but what do you guys think on this signing for Freddie?
Yeah, it's I'm assuming he's gonna start there, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, so like maybe not in the regular season, but Carolina is probably a better team than Toronto. They're more well structured, and he's going into a great system over there. So he got a similar deal. I think he took, I don't know what the last deal was, like 5.5 or something for the Leafs. So he had a nice 5-year stretch with us. It's not really his fault that we couldn't make it past the first round. There's obviously a lot of issues, but he was a nice starting goaltender. I think he'll be fine in Carolina with the guys around him.
Yeah, I remember when all that talk was after his 3rd season that, maybe they're going to have to pay him $8 million when his contract's up. He's now getting 4.5. He's settling. But I think the Leafs had to do it. If you brought Anderson back, it would have been a bad look because you went with Campbell during the playoffs, and right there, that's your guy. So if you bring Anderson back, it wouldn't be a good look because everyone would bring up, okay, why didn't he play in the playoffs last year when he was healthy? He's sitting on the bench. You went with Campbell. I think just because of that, you had to let him go and look elsewhere, and they did. So basically, this was a trade, Anderson for Mrazek. Anderson likes his stability in his defense. We saw that in Anaheim. Now in Carolina, he has that. And you look at Mrazek, he likes making those flashy saves. And Toronto, they don't love to defend those. So he's going to have a lot of time to do those. He's going to be standing on his head a lot. That's exactly what he loves to do. I want to see the old school World Junior Peter Mrazek come out, and Toronto's going to give him that opportunity because he's going to have to go post to post a lot, and both guys get what they want. They play the style they like here, so it's a good move.
I do like it a lot. I think you explained it perfectly. I was talking to my cousin Steve yesterday, and he was basically saying that in high chance saves, in really good scoring chances, Mrazek has the best save percentage. So like you said, with the flashy saves, he loves doing that. But I want to quickly talk about what Carolina really is thinking here. I mean, you had Nedeljkovic, who was second in Calder voting, and you basically get rid of him for nothing. You trade him to Detroit for Bernier. Bernier doesn't even end up signing in Carolina. They get Freddie Anderson and Antti Ranta both for 2 years. Is it safe to say that Nedeljkovic just they didn't want to pay the guy? Like this is huge. Like this is kind of like Vasilevsky not getting that contract all those years ago. Because I think Nedeljkovic was gonna be the guy in Carolina as soon as next year. So the fact that they get rid of a 23, 24-year-old goalie, I think that could really bite them in the ass in the long run. But that also shows that them getting Freddie Anderson right now and Antti Ranta, they're in win now mode 100%. Finished first this year in that conference. At times they looked like they were actually better than Tampa Bay. I want to say for majority of the year. We all know how good Aho and Svechnikov are going to be. I've been saying that they're Ovi and Backstrom 2.0. I think they're going to be they already are incredible, but I think year after year, they're going to be getting even better. So I'm going to start with you, Pagniello. I mean, I know you get Freddie, you get Ranta, but do you think this is all worth it just to get rid of a guy like Nedeljkovic?
That's a bit of a head scratcher. I just assumed he'd be the goalie there for the future. Like I'm pretty sure he was a second round pick recently, and he was just continuing to progress in their system. And I thought like going into this year, it would have been the time for him to take over, and he had a solid year. Only played like 20 games or so, but like I thought it was the time for him to take the step, and then they just let him go. And it's a bit of a head scratcher. I don't know what they're doing, and that might be going for that goes for the Jake Bean thing too. Carolina's making some moves. I'm not really sure, but they might technically be better short term now because with Freddie and Ranta, so it's a nice duo, but letting the kid walk at only 25 is a little concerning.
Yeah, I think this is Chris said it there. Win now mode, you have to, especially if you bring in Ranta as a backup. So him and Anderson together, they're gonna hope that I guess Anderson plays, I'll say close to 60. I think that's what they're hoping for. But just in case he gets injured, they're falling back on Rant, who has experience of being a number one elsewhere. So could be a good move for them. But some of the moves they made, they're probably going to be short term. I think the trade deadline is where they're really going to ramp it up. So right now they're going to just count on their goalie. They're going to be some stability there, I guess, with both of them. But they might regret that, letting Nedeljkovic go.
I think for sure, it's tough too because sports, it's a business too. You have to make these decisions sometimes, but I think it all went down to when Mrazek got hurt last year. I think they just they weren't really sure what direction they were going in long term with goalies. They looked at Reimer, they looked at Mrazek, they looked at Nedeljkovic at times, and Mrazek, it's tough, right? He's 27, 28. You don't know if he's in his prime. You don't know if he can get better. And then there's this guy, Nedeljkovic, who, when Mrazek was down for, I think it was like 40 games, he missed a lot of it. Nedeljkovic was just shining, but I don't think Brindamore and co ever really had a lot of faith in him, as crazy as that sounds. So, like you guys said, it is a very big head scratcher, but they did come in first last year. They do now get Freddie and Ranta, two older type goalies, but I think they're good enough to maybe get the job done. I guess I'll say this before we get off the air. Out of Philly getting better, out of Tampa Bay staying the same, Washington, is it safe to say that Carolina might be the team to beat in that division next year?
Run through the teams again. I think I'd pencil them in for first though.
There's you have Carolina, Philly, Pittsburgh, the Rangers, the Islanders, the Devils. I'm pretty sure that's it.
Yeah, the Hurricanes are right there. For some reason, I can't cross out the Islanders because they seem to be there every year too. But yeah, the Hurricanes have just been building something nice over the last little while. Now their young core players are really starting to pay off. So we'll see with the goaltending situation.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I want to see how they play without Dougie Hamilton and with their goalies the way it is now. It's still tough because the Rangers could pull out a big move and get Jack Eichel for all we know. So they're a team. They have Panarin, amazing. All these young guys coming in. So I'll still have the Rangers like in the mix there, even if they don't make the playoffs. I think they'll be like starting off. They'll have their run. Philly, I think, is going to be a really good team. I like the moves they made, so I'll go Philly over the Carolina Hurricanes.
Wow, I like that. We'll conclude today's video. We got a couple more guys we got to talk about. First, I'll stay Mike Hoffman. This guy has not really been a likable guy in this league. You would think it's easier for him to get a contract. I think he's hit 30 goals 3 times. Pagniello, is this contract similar to Josh Anderson, or is Mike Hoffman a much bigger threat?
Oh, they're pretty different, so it's tough. But I think Hoffman's worth that. I'm not sure why he has issues with getting a contract over the last few years. That might have something to do with the Carlson thing a few years ago. But like, this man is a bona fide 20 to 30 goal scorer. Like, it shouldn't be that hard for Hoffman. I like the deal. They lost Philip Deneau to LA, which was a solid move. So replacing his points is going to be, it won't replace his defense, but picking up a guy like Hoffman, he's going to step right in, maybe score 30 goals for them next year. So I love that move for them, unfortunately.
Yeah, Hoffman, there's not really like, you don't know what you're going to get out of him. Maybe he'll flourish there, maybe he won't. It all depends on the system, who's around him, how his line mates are playing. But I think he is capable, easily 20 goals. So we'll have to see about that one.
Yeah, I was just going to bring up Philip Deneau getting 6 years in LA, $5.5 million. I mean, that to me is a huge signing. I don't know if 6 years, like that's a long time, 6 years. I think he's 28. I'll start with you, Aulino. He had a great playoffs, Philip Deneau. Don't get me wrong, incredible. But is he worth $5.5 million?
No, and they're going to find that out now. Maybe in year 2, but they're going to find that out. Like, those kind of contracts you save for someone you feel is going to be part of your core, who's going to put up numbers, who's going to put asses in seats. Philip Deneau, I don't think is going to do that. He's a nice little player to have on your team, like causes problems, but like, you got to look at your centers right there, who they have already, and like Kopitar, even though he's not getting any younger, he's still amazing to have, and he's got young players coming up like under him. So this might be another one of those contracts similar to what we saw with Suter. It's going to put you in a little bit of a bind in the coming years, because like Martinez is going to do for Vegas. So they might regret this one in a couple years now.
Again, the term. I don't know why everyone's getting 6-year deals, no problem. I wouldn't have had a problem with 5.5 if it was for like 3 or 4 years, because I like Philip Deneau. But 6 years for a guy, like, he'll score 30 to 40 points. He's a great defensive player, but to have him locked on your second line for that long, I'm not sure. I think for the next 3-4 years, it's awesome as guys like Velarde and Turcotte continue to develop, but that's another lengthy one, boys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna close this one out with it's pretty fun. We got to go to Boston here. They got Nick Foligno, $3.8 million, 2 years. They got Linus Ullmark. Believe it or not, Pagniello, I think I said yesterday he got $4 million. He actually got $5 million for 4 years.
Oh my God.
So this guy is going to be their starter next year. What are your guys' thoughts on that? I think that is just puzzling. I mean, I didn't watch a lot of Buffalo last year, but to me, this is the head scratcher, I think, of all head scratchers, other than Colorado letting Grubauer go.
It's the fucking one guy they should have kept. That's kind of funny. They just jacked their starting goalie. That's really like all they had other than Eichel, who's pretty much on the way out anyway. So, but yeah, 5 mil. Yeah, he had pretty good numbers in Buffalo, given the circumstances. And then Nick Foligno, yeah, it's a good thing we didn't give up a fucking first-round pick to get him, so he'll fit nice in Boston's lineup.
Yeah, everything Pagniello said. I don't have too much to add on that. Just, wow, Foligno, like, first-round pick. You don't re-sign him in Toronto. And they go and get Ullmark. So Rask, I don't know if he's retiring or what he's going to do, but that's an interesting one.
Well, we're going to finish today. We've got two, obviously. I want to quickly talk about Mrazek, obviously. We touched on it a bit, but I want to quickly talk about it a little more. Mrazek, going back to Toronto after being injured last year. But guys, I'm a big fan of this guy. I think he could get you about 920 save, and that's something that the Leafs have not had in a goalie in a very long time. So I guess I'll start with Pagniello. I know the 1A, 1B, we've seen it before with Bernier and Reimer way back when. Can you see Mrazek and Campbell maybe pulling it together and maybe taking this team a little bit further than the first round? Or what do you see from Peter Mrazek?
It really depends on who we play in the first round if we make it there. But I think Leaf fans understand this is a short-term fix. I like the deal. The money's fine, whatever. Peter Mrazek, he's what is he, 28, 29 now? He didn't really play much last year, but he'll show flashes. So I like the setup for the next 3 years. They're going to be going back and forth, and they're going to be fighting for the crease. It's healthy competition. So I hope they can pull us out of the first round, but I'm not looking long-term, and I understand the process. One of them, I believe, will be gone within the next 2 years. So I'm just going to enjoy it while it lasts for both of them.
Yeah, I'm with you. Remember Peter Mrazek in that World Junior, this guy was being pumped up as the next Dominic Hasek. So just imagine if we see that here, this hockey market, how insane they would go. And I just hope for his mental health that he makes saves and isn't too wild in the crease, because that can also turn into the next Gustafsson situation. So we don't want to see that. Let's hope that he's successful, because they need to get past the playoff round here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember when Campbell became the starter, we were all like, okay, this is the goalie that Dallas should have got when they drafted him. So I feel like for now, let's just pump the brakes with both goalies. I know they both have that starter type potential, but I guess with the Leafs, we just got to wait and see. But yeah, that's basically it for this week. There's a lot more free agent signings. If you guys haven't seen them all, you could easily go to tsn.ca and you could see the list there. Go on the score, wherever you need to do. But that's basically it for this week. Obviously, there's going to be more trades and signings in the coming days, even right now as we speak. But until then, until next time.
Chris, I'm looking at something here. Phil Kessel has 1 year left on his contract. I just pulled up Arizona's roster.
Well, the Leafs got to get him. What are we doing?
What's Arizona doing? Why wasn't he included in the trade talks? You would think a team that needs to improve a lot, get younger. They traded Kemper. Why is Phil not being thrown out there and advertised for sale?
Call me crazy, but maybe Phil doesn't want to leave. Maybe he wants to stay in the desert by himself. I don't know. I mean, Phil Kessel is a very weird guy. He can be the guy. He could be the most outgoing guy, or he could just be invisible. So I wouldn't be surprised if his agent literally said, "Listen, he had a great time in Pittsburgh. He won his cups. I think now he knows that maybe in 3-4 years he's going to hang him up. Maybe don't move him. Maybe ease the stress off of him." I could see him being that type of guy. That's why I'm saying this. But I mean, at this point in time, Phil Kessel is probably their best player right now between him and Chychrun. I don't know if they want to keep him as an untouchable, but I obviously want to see Phil be successful. So if Arizona is going to be bad this year, trade this guy at the deadline back to Toronto. Let's go.
You know what? This man has played for Boston, Toronto, and Pittsburgh. He's got 2 cups. He's one of the better goal scorers of our generation. If he wants to ride off into the sunset and just chill with no media around in his final years in Arizona, I respect the fuck out of that.
What a guy. You know what, Toronto? I know Alex, actually, no, yeah, Galchenyuk, he was nice when he came in here, but, they got Kerfoot, good little technician. I look at the numbers there. If Arizona retains some salary, the Leafs throw in a prospect, a couple draft picks. You think that can happen? Could we bring Phil back for Kerfoot? Would you do it?
Easily. I'm bringing Phil back regardless. Doesn't matter. I mean, it's like what San Jose did with Marlowe. I mean, like at that point in time, this guy is a legend here. Kessel, he's been with us basically through the lowest times, almost in franchise history. So if he can put up a point a game on one of the worst teams in Leafs history, man, I can't even imagine what this guy could potentially, be doing right now on a line with Tavares or Matthews. It's just, I can't really fathom it. I think he could still be able to pump out 30 goals, maybe even more if he's on a line with them.
Let's do it. Even if it's for like a Doug Gilmore situation for one game.
Let's do it.
The Doug Gilmore situation.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God. Poor guy. Didn't have a chance.
It's all good.
But anyways, guys, that is it for this week. This was the NHL Free Agent Frenzy, and this is In the Zone signing off.